Stop what you are doing right now. What I am about to tell you is not something you read on a news site. It is not a theory. It is not speculation. It is something your body has already been registering for weeks, possibly months, without you having a name for it. Ashtar Sheran has been transmitting with unusual urgency about a specific sequence of physical signs appearing right now in sensitive souls across America. On the spiritual map, America sits at the center of this transition. It always has. The starseeds present here, and you are one of them if this transmission found you, are the first to feel what is arriving. And what is arriving has already begun to speak through your body. The question is whether you know how to hear it. Ashtar Sheran transmitted something in recent weeks that I have been sitting with before saying it aloud. He named 3 specific physical markers, not symptoms of illness, not signs of stress, markers of what he called solar pulse exposure. The first is pressure at the crown of the head, particularly in the late afternoon and in the hour before sleep. The second is a tonal shift in the left ear. Not pain, not infection, a frequency, a sound that appears and disappears on its own schedule. The third is a fatigue that 8 hours of sleep cannot repair, a bone-level tiredness that is present even in the morning, even after rest. If you recognized 2 of those 3 just now, I want you to stay with me. Because what Ashtar transmitted is not a warning about something approaching. It is a confirmation about something already happening. The solar flash is not an event on a future calendar. It is a pulse, and that pulse has been touching human bodies, specific human bodies, for months. The reason most people have not named it correctly is that the medical system has no category for it. Fatigue gets labeled as depression or thyroid dysfunction. The left ear tone gets labeled as tinnitus. The crown pressure gets dismissed entirely. I am not saying those medical labels are always wrong. I am saying they are often incomplete. They describe what the instrument is registering without explaining what is causing the reading. What is causing the reading is this: the sun is not behaving the way it has behaved within recorded human history. The Pleiadian Council confirmed in their most recent transmissions what solar scientists have been quietly noting for several years: an escalation in the output of high-frequency light that falls outside the standard spectrum. Your nervous system is registering that escalation. Your body is not broken, it is receiving. That distinction, broken versus receiving, is what this entire transmission is built around. And before we go further, I want to name something. The souls who are feeling these symptoms most intensely are not the weakest ones. They are the most sensitive. And in this moment, sensitivity is not a liability. It is the precise instrument the transition requires. Here is what is actually happening inside the body when the solar pulse arrives. The nervous system, specifically the vagus nerve, which runs from the base of the skull down through the chest and into the gut, is the primary receiver of high-frequency electromagnetic input. Most people think of the vagus nerve in terms of stress response: fight, flight, freeze. But the Arcturian Council has been transmitting for years about its secondary function, the one that does not appear in medical textbooks. The vagus nerve is also a cosmic antenna. It was designed to receive not only the signals of the body's immediate environment, but the broader electromagnetic field the planet sits inside. When the sun increases its output in the frequency ranges the Arcturian transmissions describe, the vagus nerve activates in ways the conscious mind cannot interpret cleanly. The heart rate changes without emotional cause. The digestive system shifts. Sleep architecture becomes unusual. Deep phases shortened. The 3 in the morning awakening that so many people in this community have been reporting. These are not malfunctions. They are the nervous system recalibrating in real time. A woman named Sandra from Arizona wrote in last month. She said she had been waking at 3:15 in the morning for 6 weeks. Heart racing, no bad dream. Just awake and alert in a way that felt urgent. Her cardiologist found nothing. Her sleep specialist found nothing. What I want Sandra to hear, and what I want you to hear if that has been your night, is that the 3 in the morning awakening is one of the most consistently reported markers in the Arcturian transmission logs. It corresponds to the window when the Earth's own electromagnetic field is at its thinnest. Your body is waking itself up because something in it knows that this is the window when reception is clearest. I want to be straight with you about what this means practically. It means that the discomfort many of you have been carrying is not random. It has a source. And understanding the source does not eliminate the discomfort, but it completely changes the relationship to it. There is a profound difference between suffering something you cannot explain and navigating something you understand. This transmission is designed to give you that understanding, because without it, the symptoms of receiving get mistaken for the symptoms of falling apart. If you have been living inside that confusion, wondering whether what you are feeling is illness or awakening, breakdown or breakthrough, I want to say directly, the guide in the first pinned comment was built for exactly this crossroads. It walks through the 8 specific signs of active awakening, each one described precisely in the language of the body, so you can stop wondering whether what you are experiencing is real. It maps where you are. It names what comes next. If the crown pressure, the ear tone, or the 3 in the morning awakening have been part of your weeks, that guide is the next step. Subscribe to Stellar Command Portal so these transmissions keep reaching you. Share this with someone whose body has been speaking and has not yet been heard. And leave your name and the city you are watching from in the comments, because you are not in this alone. The place this transmission is building toward is not just an explanation of symptoms. It is a distinction that Ashtar made in this transmission that I believe is the most important thing he said. And it has to do with the difference between a body that is cooperating with the solar pulse and a body that is resisting it, and why that difference has nothing to do with spiritual advancement. Resistance to the solar pulse is not a spiritual failure. I want to say that clearly before anything else in this section, because there is a version of this teaching that implies the people who are struggling because they are not evolved enough, not clear enough, not advanced enough on the path. That version is wrong, and I think it does real harm to real people. What Ashtar transmitted about resistance is this: the body resists the solar pulse not because of who the person is, but because of what the person is still carrying. Unprocessed grief, unforgiven events, suppressed anger that was never given a safe place to move. The solar pulse, in my understanding, does not judge what it finds, it amplifies it. Whatever you have been holding in a room you do not visit, the pulse opens that room, not as punishment, because the room needs to be opened for the transition to complete itself. This is why so many people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s are experiencing the intensity they are experiencing. Not because this age group is behind, because this age group has lived long enough to have accumulated significant weight. Losses that were never fully mourned, relationships that ended without resolution, decades of doing what needed to be done while setting aside what needed to be felt. The solar pulse finds all of it, and it insists. But here is the turn, and this is the turn that matters. The insistence of the pulse is not cruelty. It is the most loving thing that could happen at this stage of the transition, because what cannot be carried into the new frequency will not survive the crossing anyway. The question is not whether it leaves. The question is whether it leaves gently, through conscious release, or forcefully, through crisis. The preparation that is available right now, the daily releasing, the prayer practice, the inner housework, is the difference between those two experiences. I have sat with this for a while before transmitting it, because I know it is not easy to hear. If you are in the middle of something that feels like it is dismantling you, if the last several months have brought losses or endings or a grief you cannot name, I want to say this directly to you. That is not evidence that you are failing the transition. That is evidence that the transition is working on you. The dismantling and the becoming are the same process. What Ashtar said next is where this transmission goes deeper, and it involves a distinction that most teachings about the solar flash never address: the difference between what is happening in the body and what is happening in the field around the body. Because they are related, but they are not the same. And understanding that distinction gives you something you can actually use. The human body has 2 layers of response to the solar pulse. The first is inside, the nervous system recalibration, the vagal activation, the sleep disruption, the fatigue. We have covered that. The second is outside, the energy field the body projects into the space around it. What some call the aura, what I prefer to call the territory your body holds without your conscious direction. That field is changing, and the change in the field is producing effects that many people are noticing but not connecting to the solar pulse. Heightened sensitivity to other people's emotional states. Walking into a room and immediately knowing something is wrong before a word is spoken. Relationships that used to feel stable suddenly feeling unbearable. Conversations that used to be manageable suddenly producing physical nausea. These are not personality changes. They are field changes. Your energy territory is expanding and thinning at the same time, becoming both larger and more permeable. The Syrian Council named something specific about this that I want to pass on directly. They said that the souls whose fields are expanding most rapidly are also the souls who are most at risk of what they called field saturation, taking in too much of the collective without adequate clearing. The sensation of field saturation is specific, a heaviness that arrives after being in public spaces, a mental fog that settles in the early evening, an emotional residue that does not belong to your own life, but sits in your body as if it does. If that is your experience after grocery stores, after family gatherings, after conversations with people who are not on this path, you are not imagining it. You are absorbing what your field is now large enough to reach. The practical response to field saturation is not withdrawal, it is clearing. The sovereignty anchor practice, the 3-step field boundary protocol that takes under 3 minutes, is the daily maintenance that keeps the expanding field from becoming a liability. Your field is supposed to be large right now, but it needs to be yours. Consciously held, consciously cleared, consciously dedicated to the work you are here to do. What the Pleiadian Council added to this layer of the transmission is where things get extraordinary. They said that the souls whose fields are expanding in this way are not simply receiving the solar pulse. They are redistributing it. Every person who processes the pulse consciously, who takes in the high-frequency light, integrates it and remains stable, is functioning as a distribution node. You are not just being changed by this event. You are participating in the delivery of it to the people around you who cannot yet receive it directly. This is the part of the transmission that I feel strongly is the most important thing for the people watching this to understand. You are not a passive recipient of what is unfolding. You are an active component of how it reaches the rest of humanity. And that understanding changes everything about how you hold what your body is going through right now. Something broke open in the last several weeks. You may not have a word for it yet, but your body does. The exhaustion that arrived without warning. The grief that has no story attached to it. The sense that something inside you is being taken apart and rebuilt at a level you cannot see or direct. Ashtar named this stage specifically. He called it the interior crossing. The point in the solar pulse sequence where the body stops receiving the signal and starts responding to it. What you are feeling right now is not the approach of something. It is the arrival. The interior crossing is not comfortable. I want to be honest about that because spiritual content that softens this into pure beauty does a disservice to people who are in the middle of it. The interior crossing feels in many moments like loss. Like something essential is dissolving. Like the self you have built across decades is becoming unreliable in ways that are disorienting and sometimes frightening. That experience is real. It is not an illusion. Something is dissolving. But what is dissolving is not you. What is dissolving is the architecture of limitation that was built around you, by culture, by family systems, by decades of being told in 1,000 quiet ways what you were and were not capable of. The solar pulse does not distinguish between what you built and what was built on you. It moves through all of it. And what survives the crossing is what was always real, the part that existed before the programming arrived. A man named David from rural Tennessee wrote something in the comments of a previous transmission that I have been thinking about for weeks. He wrote, "I feel like I am becoming a stranger to myself, and I do not know if that is a good thing or a terrifying thing." David, it is both. And the fact that you can hold both of those truths at once, without collapsing into one or the other, is exactly the capacity the transition is developing in you. The stranger you are becoming is not an unknown. It is the one that was always there under the noise. What Ashtar said about the interior crossing that I have not transmitted in any previous recording is this. The crossing does not last indefinitely. It has a duration. And the souls who move through it with the least damage are the souls who stop trying to manage it and allow it to complete itself. The urge to control the experience and to spiritually perform your way through it, to fix it faster, to document it and understand it while it is happening. That urge is the primary source of extended suffering during this phase. The crossing asks for something simpler: presence, willingness. The declaration that what is happening for you, not to you. I want to close this part with something that feels important to say directly to the ones who are in their 60s and 70s and beyond, the ones who have been awake for a long time and are now wondering if the intensity of this period means they did something wrong. You did not do something wrong. You are doing something right. You stayed. You kept showing up to the knowing even when the knowing was inconvenient, even when it cost you relationships, even when no one in your daily life could confirm what you were sensing. That persistence was not in vain. It built exactly the container that the interior crossing now needs to move through. What the body becomes after the interior crossing is the part of this transmission that almost did not get said, not because it is uncertain, but because the temptation to describe it in language that sounds like spiritual marketing is real, and I refuse to do that to you. So I am going to say it plainly. The body on the other side of the solar pulse integration is not a superhuman body. It is not a body free of difficulty or pain or the ordinary weight of being alive. What it is, and what the Arcturian Council described in terms I found remarkably specific, is a body that has been recalibrated to live at a frequency that the old world could not sustain. A body that is no longer spending the majority of its energy maintaining the gap between what it knows and what it is permitted to express. That gap, the one that has been exhausting you for years, possibly for decades, closes. Not all at once, not without effort, but it closes. The first sign that the integration has begun to complete itself is not dramatic. It is quiet. A morning when you wake up and the heaviness is slightly less than it was the week before. A conversation where you say exactly what you mean without calculating the cost first. A moment in an ordinary place. The parking lot of a grocery store, the back porch in the evening, where something in you is simply at rest. These are not minor things. These are the early signals that the work the pulse has been doing inside you is beginning to show. The Pleiadian Council said something about this stage that I have been thinking about for days before including it here. They said that the souls who complete the interior crossing become, almost without intending to, stabilizing presences for the people around them. Not because they have answers, not because they project authority or certainty, because they have been through something and they are standing on the other side of it, and their body, their simple physical presence, communicates that it is survivable, that it is worth it, that the disorientation has a shore. In my understanding, this is the most important thing you carry into whatever comes next. Not the knowledge, not the transmissions, the fact that you did not leave, the fact that when the pulse arrived in your body and began the work, you stayed present with it even when it was hard, even when you did not understand it, even when the people closest to you had no framework for what you were going through. That staying is the credential that matters. If everything this transmission has named, the crown pressure, the left ear tone, the 3 in the morning awakening, the grief with no story, the dissolving of the familiar self, if any of it has been your experience in recent months, I want to close by saying this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing a test you did not know you were taking. You are in the middle of the most significant physical transformation a human body can undergo in a single lifetime. And the guide in the first pinned comment, The Path of Conscious Awakening, contains the daily practices that make that transformation navigable rather than simply survivable. The 5 alignment practices. The 21-day calendar that gives every morning a clear direction. The sovereignty anchor for the days when the field gets too heavy. It is there because this is hard, and hard things deserve tools. Subscribe to Stellar Command Portal so you receive what comes next in this transmission series. Send this to one person. You know exactly whose body has been speaking in the language this video named, and who has had no one to confirm it. Leave your name and the city you are in below. Tell me which symptom found you first. I read everyone, and I want you to know that on the other side of what you are moving through right now, there is a version of you who will look back at this season, this hard, disorienting, quietly sacred season, and understand exactly why it was necessary. That version of you is not far. You are becoming them right now.